My name is Michelle Brown. I am 29 years old and I run a cleaning business. Some might think of it as dirty work. It seems that my family especially thinks so. However, I take pride in my job. My company, Clean Life, which I started alone 7 years ago, has now grown into a mid-sized business employing 50 people, with annual sales exceeding $3 million. Yet, to my family, I was always just the janitor. This was particularly true for my brother Kevin. Kevin is 21 years old. He is studying medicine at a renowned private state university. His tuition fees amount to $60,000 per year. For the past 3 years, I have covered all the expenses that his student loans didn't, as our parents couldn't afford it and I wanted to support Kevin's dream. Lately, I often reminisce about my childhood. I remember the day I held my newborn brother for the first time in the hospital waiting room when I was 8 years old. "Michelle, this is your brother Kevin," my mother said softly, guiding me as I held the baby with trembling hands. The warmth of that tiny life still lingers in my palms. "Please help take good care of Kevin as his big sister, won't you?" My father's words sowed a sense of responsibility in my young mind, which would shape my life thereafter. Our parents both worked, my father in a local small factory, and my mother part-time in a grocery shop. Although not wealthy, they worked tirelessly to prevent us siblings from experiencing hardship. Since elementary school, it was my routine to take care of Kevin after school, helping him with homework and making snacks. Although we fought at times, we cared for each other and were close siblings. Kevin's aspiration to become a doctor was sparked by an incident in the winter of his 2nd grade. He suddenly developed a high fever and severe cough. At first, we thought it was just a cold. However, that night, Kevin's breathing became labored. "Michelle, it's hard to breathe." I remember the midnight visit to the emergency room, his face pale and with an oxygen mask, rushed into the examination room. Diagnosed with severe pneumonia, he was immediately hospitalized. With our parents unable to take time off work, I, then a high school student, skipped school to care for him. "Don't worry, I'm here with you," I reassured Kevin as he lay crying with an IV drip. We stayed in a 4-person room. Kevin, weak under his oxygen mask, lay by the window. As his fever spiked at night and he tossed in his sleep, I would come after school and sometimes stay overnight to change his ice pillow and wipe his sweat. This girl really takes good care of her brother. I heard an elderly lady in the same room tell a nurse. 3 days into his hospitalization, Dr. Anderson came for a round. A kindly middle-aged doctor with a gentle smile, he reassured us, "You're doing well. You'll get better soon." Kevin nodded weakly. "The doctor is kind yet seems so reliable," Kevin murmured. A week into his stay, a little girl in the same room had a seizure at night. Dr. Anderson rushed in and skillfully handled the situation, with Kevin watching intently. "Amazing," he whispered in pure admiration. On the day of his discharge, Kevin thanked Dr. Anderson. "Dr. Anderson, I want to be a doctor like you in the future," he declared. Dr. Anderson smiled kindly. "Well then, you'd have to study hard. And remember to always be kind," he advised. "Yes, I'll do my best while learning from my sister," Kevin responded. As we left the hospital, Kevin looked back at the ward. "Michelle, I promise. I will become a doctor and help those in need," he said, his eyes shining like never before. That experience was what sparked Kevin's dream of becoming a doctor. Afterwards, I started working part-time in cleaning to help with household expenses and to contribute even a little towards my own tuition. Initially, I thought it was an embarrassing job. However, I soon realized that cleaning requires invisible effort and definite skills. My first job was at a small local clinic. Early in the morning, I polished the waiting room floor, wiped the windows, and cleaned the toilets. The clinic director once told me, "Thanks to you, Ms. Brown, our patients can receive their treatments in comfort." Those words profoundly changed my perspective on cleaning. "The place looks like it's brand new after you clean it up, Michelle," A customer once told me, a compliment I still cherish to this day. After graduating high school, I joined a major building maintenance company. Cleaning supports people's lives. I was drawn to this job believing this. While working on site, I learned the techniques and know-how of cleaning and management. In my second year with the company, I was entrusted with cleaning a large commercial facility, a crucial job overseeing more than 100 staff members. The cleaning work was relentless, from early morning at 4 a.m., before the store opened to late at night after it closed. Sometimes I had to manage both the late night and early morning shifts. Occasionally, I also had to work many hours of overtime to cover for staff who suddenly took leave. Those were incredibly busy days, but the experience became a valuable asset to me. Our cleaning staff included a diverse range of individuals, from elderly workers to housewives, each with their own circumstances. Elderly staff members, despite their excellent cleaning skills, often had to quit because their bodies could no longer keep up. In the break room, I heard part-time housewives with young children struggling to adjust their shifts. It was around this time that I began to think about starting my own business. I wanted to create a better working environment for the staff. I wanted to support people's lives through cleaning. That was my motivation. Michelle, you are really suited for this job. You work diligently and notice even the smallest details. Encouraged by an older colleague's words, I began studying management. During breaks, I read articles for entrepreneurs, and on weekends, I attended management seminars. Gradually, my dream of starting my own business took on a concrete shape. Meanwhile, Kevin, who had reached middle school, was fiercely pursuing his goal of becoming a doctor. He was always at the top of his class at school. His desk was perpetually stacked with textbooks and workbooks. However, our family finances were tight, and we couldn't afford to send him to tutoring. Kevin's dedicated himself to his studies desperately. He arrived at school earlier than anyone else, and after classes, he stayed behind in the library to study. On weekends, he was at the state library from the moment it opened. Kevin, you're working so hard every day. You'll surely become a wonderful doctor. My mother's words were filled with both pride and a tinge of sadness. I was just as desperate during his high school entrance exams. The high school Kevin wanted to attend had a slightly higher academic standard, but I didn't want him to give up. Don't worry, I'll support you with all I've got, I told him, buying him reference books with my own salary. I also secretly bought him snacks when he seemed tired. On the eve of the exam, I stayed up late with him, calming his nerves. Michelle, what if things don't go well tomorrow? Don't worry, you've done enough, Kevin. The joy of finding his examination number on the pass list on announcement day is still vivid in my memory. Kevin hugged me, crying. It's all thanks to you, Michelle. Thank you so much. At the age of 25, I resigned and finally decided to start my own company. I had saved $30,000 from my part-time jobs and as an employee, desperately accumulated over the years. I went around to banks with my business plan, but none took me seriously. The cleaning industry has too low an entry barrier. There's too much competition, they said. Starting a business as a woman is still seen as a risk. These words nearly crushed me repeatedly, but I did not give up. My first job was through an introduction from an older colleague from my part-time days. It was routine cleaning at an elementary school where her friend worked. The salary was low, but this was the start of my company. Ms. Brown, you clean so meticulously. We're grateful to have you here. The vice principal's words led to the next job. It was office cleaning for a company owned by the PTA president. I worked alone from early morning till late at night. During the day, I was on site. At night, I handled accounting and sales. There was no time to rest, but every day was fulfilling. One late night while cleaning an office, a young employee who was working overtime approached me. Ms. Brown, it must be tough working so late every day. No, I'm happy to be of help to someone. That conversation led him to introduce me to clean his company's office. Gradually, I began to receive more jobs and became busier. I was able to hire a few employees, and the company was doing well. Then one day, a fateful call came. "Michelle, I got into medical school." Kevin's excited voice came through the phone. His dream had finally come true. "Kevin, I'm coming right away." After receiving the call, I couldn't stay put. I rushed to the university during a break at work. The moment we found his name among the accepted students, we hugged and rejoiced together. However, our parents' expressions were complex. Medical school tuition is over $50,000 a year. My mother's voice trembled. "We can't afford that." "I'll pay for it," I blurted out without thinking. The company was doing well, but sourcing such a significant amount every year was not easy. "Michelle, that's too much for you," my father said, concern etched on his face. "It's okay. I want to do everything I can for Kevin's dream." Overwhelmed with gratitude, Kevin burst into tears. "Michelle, I will definitely repay your kindness." Inspired by his words, I worked even harder. Every day, I went out to secure new contracts, striving to minimize labor costs by working on site myself. Seeing my relentless work, one of my employees approached me. "You're pushing yourself too hard. Let us help with what we can." I took his words to heart and began delegating more tasks gradually. The company steadily grew, and the number of employees increased. However, in exchange, I drastically cut back on my personal life. I refrained from buying new clothes and worked even on holidays. Yet, whenever I saw Kevin striving in medical school, all my fatigue seemed to vanish. However, Kevin's acceptance into medical school gradually changed our parents. The first sign of change was at a family memorial service. "Our Kevin has been accepted into medical school," my mother proudly told each relative. With each telling, she received praises like, "Impressive," and "How commendable," and her face lit up with pride. When an aunt asked, "Is Michelle still in the cleaning business?" my mother's face clouded over slightly, and she answered vaguely, "Well, yes." My father also changed. He began to bring up Kevin at his weekly chess gatherings. "My son says he's going to be a neurosurgeon." "Ah, your son is really something else." The accolades from his peers seemed to inflate his ego gradually. One evening during dinner, while I was discussing a new contract at work, my father interjected, "Michelle, how long do you plan to keep doing that kind of job?" My mother chimed in, "Right. Kevin's classmate might introduce him to a medical office job. It's much better than cleaning." My heart froze at my mother's dismissive reference to my job as just cleaning. As Kevin's performance in medical school became known for its excellence, our parents' attitudes escalated further. They began to boast to our neighbors and at the hospital during his internships. "Our son is so well regarded by the doctors. He might stay on at the university hospital." My mother's voice would rise with each story. During the end-of-year cleaning, as I tried to teach some professional cleaning tips, my mother looked at me with a hesitant expression. "Michelle, it seems this kind of job suits you." My father even began planning his retirement, banking on Kevin's future success. "Once Kevin becomes a doctor, we won't have to worry about our old age. Working at a big hospital, he'll easily make over $200,000 a year," he speculated. Conversations at home gradually revolved solely around Kevin. I felt as if my existence was fading into the background. At family gatherings, my mother started avoiding topics about my work. "Michelle is. Well, she's managing," she would say, quickly followed by, "But Kevin." One day at a neighborhood Christmas party, a decisive moment came. "Your son is in medical school? That's really impressive," a neighbor commented. My mother responded proudly, "Yes, perhaps it's a result of our upbringing. We've inspired him to pursue a dream in healthcare." I was shocked by her expression at that moment. It seemed my daily efforts to pay his tuition had been erased from my parents' memory. My decision to leave home stemmed from these experiences. Keeping a reasonable distance, I managed to maintain a relationship with my family. However, a significant event soon shattered our family dynamic. It began in the autumn of Kevin's senior year in medical school. Kevin started dating a fellow medical student, Tiffany. They met during an internship at the university hospital. She was talented and beloved by everyone. Kevin was instantly smitten. Tiffany is the only daughter of a family that runs one of the top general hospitals in New York. Kevin's voice over the phone held a note of pride. It turned out her father was the director of a general hospital. That's amazing. But I'd like to know more about her. Can you introduce me sometime? Ah, yeah. Sure. But it's exam period now, so maybe later. This exchange was repeated many times. Even after a year of dating, I had yet to meet Tiffany. At first, I didn't mind. Medical school is busy, and I was busy with work too. But a sense of discomfort lingered. One day on my way home from work, I accidentally saw Kevin and Tiffany in front of a high-end restaurant, chatting happily. Just as I was about to call out to them, I saw Kevin's expression darken. He hurriedly ushered Tiffany inside the restaurant, pretending not to notice me. At that moment, I couldn't understand why my brother was avoiding me. Then, that call came. Michelle, about this year's Christmas party. My mother's voice carried an unusual weight. Maybe it's better if you don't come this year. I was taken aback for a moment, doubting what I just heard. Our family's Christmas party was a never-interrupted tradition, one I had always attended no matter how busy I was, even when I started my company or during delicate times in our family relationships. Since my childhood, this party has been a cherished memory filled with my mother's homemade cakes, my father dressed as Santa Claus, and exchanging handmade gifts with Kevin. It was a precious time to affirm our family bonds. What do you mean? Well, Kevin is bringing Tiffany, and her parents will be coming too. My mother's words were hesitant, as if hiding something. That moment brought back memories of the past, the night I stayed up caring for Kevin when he had a fever in elementary school, and the days I encouraged him during his middle school entrance exams. Those memories now felt like a distant past. The truth came directly from Tiffany herself. In fact, I had already met her a few months back. It was a fateful encounter on the day of a cleaning service bid at the general hospital. After finishing a presentation with other contractors, I was checking documents for the next project in the hallway when a hurried woman nearly bumped into me. "Oh, I'm sorry," said the young woman in a lab coat, apologizing deeply. While thinking she looked familiar, I glanced at her name tag. It read, Tiffany Owen. Realizing she was Kevin's girlfriend, I couldn't help but speak up. "Are you Kevin's?" She looked surprised. "Yes, but I'm Michelle, Kevin's sister." Tiffany appeared momentarily perplexed but quickly smiled warmly. "Oh, I've heard a lot about you from Kevin, but he never showed me a photo." Our conversation naturally flowed, and before I knew it, we were deeply engaged in discussion. Tiffany was an intelligent and kind woman. I could see why Kevin was smitten. "Could we keep this between us?" Tiffany suggested. "I think it would surprise him. He would be surprised when we reveal to him we've become good friends." I thought it sounded fun and agreed to keep our meeting a secret. However, looking back, perhaps Tiffany wanted to keep it secret out of consideration for me. We occasionally met for coffee after that. Then, the day after my mother called about the Christmas party, Tiffany contacted me. "Michelle, there's something I need to talk to you about." Her voice trembling. We met at our usual cafe, her eyes red as if she had been crying. "Michelle, I can't stand it anymore," she said, her voice shaking. "About the Christmas party. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I think you have the right to know." Tiffany took a deep breath and began to speak. She had accidentally overheard a conversation between Kevin and my mother. She heard them saying, "Tiffany's family shouldn't find out that his sister is a janitor." That phrase struck me like a sharp blade. If they find out about Michelle being a janitor, Tiffany's parents might not accept our relationship, and it could even affect my future career prospects. I felt as if my 24 years bond with my brother crumbled in an instant. Kevin had proposed excluding me from family gatherings, seeing me as an obstacle to his future. When I heard these words, something quietly but surely broke inside me. More shocking was my parents' reaction. "Don't worry, Michelle will understand. Considering your future. The world of medicine is really special." They seemed to sympathize with Kevin's reasoning, as if my feelings as a daughter were less important than maintaining a social facade for my brother. Since childhood, I had lived with the phrase, "because you're the big sister," and sacrificing for my brother had seemed natural. But now, that natural felt profoundly unstable. Tiffany continued, "Actually, I've kept it a secret from Kevin for a long time, but my mother has been a janitor at a hospital for over 20 years. She met my father there and they married, but she continued to work even after marriage. She worked with pride." Tears welled up in her eyes as she spoke. "My mother always said, cleaning is an important job that protects people's lives." Deep gratitude for her mother shone in Tiffany's eyes. I pretended I didn't hear their conversation and said at the Christmas party, "I'd like to meet your sister." Then Kevin. He called the cleaning job embarrassing and referred to you as just a janitor. Tiffany's tears spilled over as she spoke. "I can't believe them anymore. They're people who think of my mother's job in such a way," Tiffany said as she looked down, trembling. That night, I stayed late at the office, lost in thought in front of my computer. Displayed on the monitor was the payment history for Kevin's tuition fees, amounting to over $100,000 over 4 years. I had covered his day-to-day expenses and the shortfall in his tuition by taking out loans, on top of my own contributions. It was the crystallization of my sweat and tears. The nightscape visible from the office window seemed lonelier than usual. A janitor's sister. The phrase echoed in my mind like a haunting refrain. I am proud of my job. I support people's lives and maintain the environment. It is by no means a job to be ashamed of. Days of sleeplessness filled with anger came, followed with sadness. The next day, I received a brief message from Tiffany. "I've decided to break up with Kevin. I cannot be with someone who dismisses my mother's life like that. Michelle, thank you for everything." Perhaps deep down, I had sensed this outcome, but I hadn't expected it to come so soon. That night, I made a difficult decision. I stopped paying Kevin's tuition fees. A few days later, a notice of unpaid tuition arrived at the university for Kevin. Confused and angry calls came from both my parents and Kevin. "What is this? Didn't you promise to pay for the tuition fees?" My mother's voice was frantic. "Michelle, what happened? Kevin's future depends on this." My mother cried, and my father yelled at me. But my resolve was firm. If having a janitor for a sister is embarrassing, then you don't need assistance from me. I responded calmly, "Let Kevin find his own path. It will surely be a good experience for him." Kevin, in a panic, called me. "Michelle, please. Pay the tuition fee." "Why?" I asked calmly. "Am I not just a shameful janitor?" "That's not it. I was wrong. I'm sorry." "Kevin," I said quietly, "you were ashamed of my job, of my existence, yet you still want to accept my money. Our parents called every relative, but no one offered to help Kevin. Ever since Kevin had entered medical school, our parents' haughty attitude had exhausted our relatives' patience. Eventually, Kevin decided to apply for a scholarship and started a part-time job. A month later, Kevin visited my workplace. He had lost a lot of weight. "Michelle, I'm truly sorry," he said, apologizing deeply. "I've applied for a scholarship and started a part-time job. I'm going to continue my studies on my own." His voice lacked its former arrogance. The situation with Tiffany made me realize. She told me how important and honorable cleaning work is, how wonderful the job you do is. Someone who doesn't understand that shouldn't be a doctor. I listened silently to his words. "Your company. It's really impressive. I didn't realize it before. I'm truly sorry. Entering medical school made me think I was better than others. His eyes surveyed my office. There's nothing to be ashamed of anymore. Rather, I'm proud. Seeing the smiles of the people working at your company made me understand, he said. I spoke after a moment's thought. From now on, you stand on your own, but if you're really in trouble, you can come to me. Kevin nodded, tears in his eyes. Thank you. But I'll try to do it on my own as much as I can. I think that's how I can apologize to you. Months passed, and Kevin truly changed. He worked part-time at a local clinic on weekends and as a tutor on weekday evenings. Kevin began to visit sometimes to talk about his experiences in medical school and his future dreams. I want to open a clinic in the community in the future. Not one for the wealthy, but a place where everyone can feel secure. His eyes no longer held vanity or pretense, but a firm resolve. From time to time, my mother called. Michelle, I'm really sorry for trampling over your feelings. Her voice laden with deep regret. My father sent a letter. Michelle, my daughter, I am proud of your strength. We were wrong. If you can forgive us, let's be a family again. I've put off responding. I need time. But I believe that one day we can come together as a family again. A year later, Kevin started an internship at a local clinic, which, incidentally, my company was contracted to clean. Dr. Kevin really understands the patient's feelings. A nurse commented one day. Kevin chatted amiably with the janitors and became a doctor who empathized with his patients' anxieties. Now, our sibling bonds might be stronger than before, not based on ideals or pretenses, but on a reality where we understand each other. And Kevin came to understand the true value of cleaning work. It's not just cleaning. It's a job that proudly supports people's health and peace of mind.